Excellencies, colleagues, friends, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your commitment to women, peace and security. In my former life, I was a cabinet minister in my home country, Sweden, where I was the Minister of Social Affairs and Gender Equality. So therefore, I know something about the Swedish feminist foreign policy as well. I think that this initiative and the feminist foreign policy as a concept has set an example to guide all interventions from the so-called 3R perspective: rights, resources, and representation in whatever is being done or initiated within the Swedish foreign policy. I think also that Sweden has been able, together with civil society, to highlight the double exposure of women human rights defenders as both women and civil society actors, sometimes also representing minorities or other groups. So I think that the feminist foreign policy, which has since been taken up by other countries, is one example of how a government can lead and steer gender equality policies. We have also learned lessons in relation to the Swedish initiative on feminist foreign policy. And one is that it is important to fund these initiatives, something I'm not sure even Sweden did at the outset enough. And this is a global trend. It's fantastic with good support and with good initiatives of this kind, but they have to also come with funding and ideas about implementation. The interest from more and more member states in the women, peace and security agenda is obviously a very good thing, and it drives results. Here in New York, the Security Council regularly invites women's civil society representatives to speak and brief at the council. We can also see that language in resolutions to an always greater extent contains gender references. It is nowadays as much as 70% of the resolutions. The Security Council's informal expert group on women, peace and security, to which UN Women serves as a secretariat, offers another space for the council members to discuss issues of concern in relation to women, peace and security, including the situation of women human rights defenders. I am, and many of you are, very concerned that women human rights defenders continue, and sometimes even increasingly, to be targeted with threats, harassment, and violence. We have also seen that lockdown measures in response to the COVID-19 pandemic have worsened existing risk for female activists. For example, on the first day of Colombia's quarantine, Carlota Isabel Salinas Perez, who dedicated her life to defending women's rights, was shot dead in front of her house. We all must contribute to a safe and enabling environment for women human rights defenders to do their work. Many times what they advocate for is actually international agreements. They're doing the UN's job. In his last report on women, peace and security, the UN Secretary General called on UN peace missions to be more attentive to signs of backlash or attacks against women activists. He also called on the international community to provide financing to organizations that channel emergency funds to women human rights defenders at risk. Many times, these women's groups represent and organize women who are most targeted and with the greatest needs in dire conflict and humanitarian situations. We do have strong recommendations, commitments, and obligations in place, but what we need now is action, accountability, implementation, and funding. In the context of the Women, Peace and Security Compact, which in itself is a part of and an outcome of the Generation Equality Forum. I think you'll be pleased to know that there are also measures and initiatives in relation to protection of women's rights defenders in the context of conflict. At the Generation Equality Forum in June, the Compact will launch ambitious and concrete actions and proposals to support women's activists in their struggle for gender equality and peace building. I hope that everything that we do, not only the Compact, will support and strengthen the very important work, courageous leadership of women's rights defenders in the countries where this is so needed. Thank you so much for having me today.